All right, so today we're going to jump into BackOps, the platform, and really start to take a little bit of a tour around all the different pieces that make it up. But before we do, I want to cover a few quick topics. First, as we walk through today's demo, it's important to realize that everything that we're going to show you is coming from the guise of a single event. We do have additional features that help you roll up and understand your whole portfolio of events. And then the other piece here is that everything I'm showing you is coming from an administrative view. So this is every little feature and piece of functionality in here. As you look to invite external collaborators or other people into the platform, you have quite a lot of capability to limit exactly what they see, make the platform a little bit less busy and things like that for features that they might not be concerned with. You can use our permissioning system and a lot of the features around to help simplify the interface where you're trying to invite external users into the platform to be able to work with you on your events. So as we jump into the demo, there are two major topics that will come up all over the application. The first is areas, which are just all the logical spaces that you break down your event into. So your areas are things like your green rooms, your stages, back of house offices, really any logical fit space that you are going to have to break down your event into. Now, the other major topic that comes up quite a bit is collaborators. Collaborators are all the groups of people that you are collaborating with on the event. Your collaborators are going to be any vendors that you might have on an event. These are going to be speakers that might be speaking at the conference. These are going to be your client. It could be any number of different people. Your venue could be another one. So these are all the different groups of people that you're actually working with to produce the event. Ultimately, underneath each one of those collaborators is where you're going to find all the individual crew members. So if I were to jump into a collaborator here, let's say my production company, underneath that production company, I then have all the actual individual crew members for that production company, where I can easily then see everybody who's involved. From here, as we jump into the rest of the platform, a lot of the things that we're going to run through get repeated across the main event areas and collaborators. So as I jump through these higher level features like schedule and files and advancing and all these other pieces, you'll notice that they're also repeated here on my collaborator dashboard. So inside of each collaborator, you get the filtered down version of that information just for that collaborator, and then you can easily see the roll-ups at the whole event level. So I'm going to go ahead and jump up to the event level schedule, and we can start walking through some of these features. So the first feature is schedule, and as I jump through the schedule, one of the things that we were very focused on as we built out scheduling and BackOps was really giving you the ability to first see your schedule at a high level, so understanding the larger blocks and easily be able to filter through those, and then also be able to jump down into detail. And we'll get to that detail part here in a second, but at a high level, what's nice about this calendar is that I can see my main event schedule and the bigger blocks that are on it. I can also then go ahead and add in additional schedules or calendars based on the collaborators that I have. So I can see the schedule for my production company. I can see the schedule for my catering company. I can start to layer in all these different pieces that would normally be some of that extra detail that we have inside of our schedule, but could also be incredibly cluttering when we're trying to look at everything at once. And so the fact that I can easily check and uncheck my different calendars for my collaborators or for my areas where I want to understand schedules for each of the different spaces that I have inside of the event, I'm easily able to do that, and so I can filter down to just see what I need to see. Now, what's also really nice about this, though, is that I can take any of my scheduled activities and I can dig a level deeper by building out of Run a Show. So for each of the activities on my calendar, I can jump in and start to understand the Run a Show, which gives me my full minute-by-minute breakdown of all the different pieces on my calendar. And I can do this for every single activity on the calendar. I also have some AI tools built in here where I can describe what it is that I'm looking to add to the Run a Show, and it'll help me to build that out based on the custom columns that I've defined. So I do have some productivity gains that I get. But really the biggest piece for us when we were building out this schedule feature was that you have that kind of two levels of detail. You can start with your higher level calendar and understand all the things that are going on for the event. You can add in those extra calendars on top, and then you can also dive that extra level deeper in with the Run a Show. Now, another really nice part about this calendar that we found quite useful is you may have noticed that I keep jumping over and clicking on these time frames, which let me bounce around my calendar. So obviously, a lot of times you're going to be planning way in advance of your event, and so when you jump into today's schedule, it's like, great, that doesn't actually show me what I need to see. And so what building timeframes allows you to do, which is just like adding any other activity on your calendar, it lets you build these jump points into your event. So you could just have labeled timeframes for things like show, load in, maybe site walk, whatever it is that are major breakpoints. That way, whenever you're planning, you can just click on these and jump around your calendar to easily get to the different spots that you need. From here, the next feature that I want to jump into is project management. Project management works a lot like other task platforms that you may have run into. We do add a few extra individual features on top of this that really help make it a little bit more event specific. But at a high level, you're able to build out all your tasks and subtasks. You can assign those tasks and subtasks out to different people, set priority, build in reviewers, and then you also have quite a bit of ability to customize these things. So you can jump into your settings and easily add custom statuses, so that way you can really start to form this out to the process that you have internally with your company. You can also add a number of custom fields, and you have quite a bit of options as far as the types of custom fields that you can add and really the flexibility as far as how you want to use these custom fields. So lots of customizations available there. Now, two of the pieces that we add on top of this, the first is called phases. And phases really let you break down all the work that you're going to be doing for the project into kind of these time-bound sections. And what's nice about this is that you can start to understand progress that you have at each of the different phases of the event. So you could put all your pre-production tasks into one phase. You could have load in as a phase, on-site, load out, and then post-event. And we found that when using this feature on shows, it is actually super helpful to even have some of those on-site load in, load out phases, because they really help you to break down all the different pieces that you actually have to make sure that you check off while you're on site for an event. So having that breakdown where I can come in and say, you know what, I want to make sure I sign off or put eyes on these major elements for the different parts of my load in, and then even major tasks that you want to make sure you hit during the show. It's really great to break those down, have them in their phases, and easily understand what's happening there. Now, the other part here that is a little bit more event specific is constraints. Constraints is really great for tracking where did things go wrong, so that you have a high level visibility into those things as you go into your postmortem at the end of the event. So with constraints, if you were to say have a problem where, let's say you have a client, they turned in some floor plans late, you had to go into permitting, you had to pay for a rush fee, and now you're over budget. Or let's say you've got a show going on, some weather delayed a load in, now you're in a labor overage, right? By logging those things as constraints, first, as a leader on the show, you're able to easily see what are my active constraints. So where do I need to get my team unblocked because there's problems? The other piece here with the constraints is that when you do get to the end of the show, you have this log of all the different kind of blockers that you ran into throughout the project. So as you're doing a postmortem, you can look back at the show and say, okay, here's things that we might want to adjust in the future. Here's where maybe we even have billbacks or conversations to have with other vendors or our client because of the issues that we ran into. So this constraints feature really helps you to track that death by million cuts problem that we all seem to run into on events. Now from here, we jump into file management, and we are a full-service file management platform here at BackOps, and so we're able to replace something like a Dropbox or Google Drive in your workflows, where you're able to store all your files for the project directly in the platform. So a lot of the things that you'd expect as far as the ability to build out folders and drop all your different files in, do all the normal sharing capabilities as far as sharing, building shared links, sharing with users or collaborators inside the platform, that's all ready and available. But on top of that, we also add a few other features that are super great for the collaborative aspect of how events work. The first is a review system. And so you are able to jump into the platform and assign reviewers to different files. And this is really great if you have to go through a contract review process, if you have to review different floor plans, things like that. You can use this system to assign different people to review files, and they might request changes, they can leave comments, and as you go through different versions of the files, you'll finally arrive at a version that's fully approved and ready for the project. This makes it very clear what version of drafting or a contract or whatever it might be, this gives you clarity on what version you are actually using for the show. So it takes away that headache that you often run into where someone just goes into their inbox, they grab the latest version that they have, turns out it's the wrong version, and now everybody's misaligned. So you have one platform storing all your files, it's easy to tell which one was the latest version, and you're good to go. Now another nice part here is that we also help you deal with multiple formats, and for those of you who are dealing with a lot of technical drawings or drafting, this is really great because you can have your Vectorworks file and your PDF uploaded directly as the same file on the platform, and so you're able to track the different versions of all those formats without having to have tons of folders and the whole this is final version 1 to final, like all the crazy naming that goes along with it. We help consolidate all that down into a far more manageable and organized platform with the versioning and formats all in one go. Now from there we jump into crewing, and I already mentioned that crew is rolled up underneath each one of the collaborators. And so at this high level crewing page, you get a chance to see all the different crew who are on your event. You can also easily see the different active users that are brought into this event based on the tag that they have here. But really a lot of power in our crewing module comes in through the ability to build out custom attributes. So you can come into your event settings and build out as many of these custom attributes as you'd like for the crew members. And this could be things like t-shirt sizes for volunteers. It could be dietary restrictions that you have to collect. It might be union certification status, arrival dates for people coming on site. Whatever it is, you have the flexibility to come in and build quite a few different attributes. And then you can track all those attributes against your crew. And you can track different sets of attributes for different collaborators. So if you had volunteers as one of your collaborators, and then you had your client, or you had a speaker who's coming in, all those people could be assigned different sets of attributes that you need to collect. And what's also nice about this system is you can decide who's going to collect this information. So you can send out their crew profile for them to fill out, where they'll fill out all this information. But you could also define inside your settings that instead you're going to mark this not as crew provided, but internally metrics that you're tracking. So you can have attributes that you're tracking inside the project, but not necessarily having them fill out themselves. That's really great if you're doing things like room assignments or things like that. But sneak peek, we do actually have some travel and transportation module that's going to come and help you do things like room assignments and other travel stuff in the future. From there, we jump into our email communications feature. This email communications feature is really all about helping you better track and centralize all the emails that fly back and forth, because obviously email is a core piece of how we plan events right now, but it can get crazy, especially if you have a team of people working together on an event and you run into the problem where all the emails are going to one person and then those emails don't seem to make it out to the rest of the teams. Now people are behind. If you have one shared central inbox, you don't run into that problem. So you guys can all share that one inbox. And so that's exactly what we provide here. You can actually go copy this email address and you can use it to CC on different emails. You can send emails directly to it. You could leave it in a BCC line if you don't want people to see it. But as long as that email address is included on the emails, all those emails will come directly into your inbox here. And we give you some AI features that'll help summarize the threads so you can move a little bit faster through all those crazy emails that you're trying to process. And you can also even use it like a to-do list, which is often what I do when I'm on shows, where as I have new emails come in, once I know I've handled those details, I can go ahead and mark it as read and move into the next one. So it makes it really easy to jump through all the email communications, and then also puts it into one shared inbox that your whole team has access to. Now from there we move into event accounting. And the event accounting feature was actually born based on some other event budgeting features that we saw and really frustration that we had with those. So in a lot of the platforms that we played with in the past, a lot of the times event budgeting was pretty much I lay out my budgets, and then from there I can charge transactions against those budgets. So I could, as I spend money, kind of subtract it from the budget. But for us, that just wasn't enough, because a lot of times there's a lot more nuance to what's actually happening in your event accounting. You're going to have things where it's, okay, I have this budget. I have certain things that have been quoted. I've got certain things that I have invoices or purchase orders for, but I haven't quite paid yet. And then I've got the things that I've actually already paid for. And so money has state as you work in these projects. It has a flow as you go from thinking about doing the thing to all the way to paying. And especially in this industry where we run into net 30 terms quite often, that paid state might not happen for quite a long time. And so you really want to understand, where do you still owe money? Where are you committed to things? Where do you have the things that are just quoted that you might be thinking about? And how does that really fit into your whole budget? So what we did with this is we built out a full event accounting system. And so this is a double entry accounting system that really helps you do better project accounting. So you can build out as many different accounts as you need inside the system. You could have accounts that represent your different budgets. You can have accounts that represent vendors that you might be working with. And as you start to build all the transactions into the system, each transaction debiting one account, crediting another, you build out this sort of cash flow map. And so we have this cash flow here where you can see I started with my main event budget. I went out into a production budget, into a catering hospitality budget, a marketing and creative budget. But then you can also see where I directly paid some vendors. I've got my venue here that I paid for out of my main operations budget. I've got a production vendor that I paid out of my production budget. And if I jump into any of these budgets, I can see the details of everything that happened, but it gives me a much better view of everything going on. And a great example of where state really comes in, if I were to look at this budget here, I can see that right now I have a $95,000 credit that came in. That was my initial allocation to my production budget. But then as I jump through this, while it looks like I have $60,000 left in my budget right now, That's because really the only things that have been paid for are my initial vendor deposit. But if I actually start to look at what's going on here, I've got two pretty big transactions that are committed. So I've already committed another $67,000. And if I didn't have the ability to really see the state of money, I wouldn't realize that I'm already $7,000 over budget with another $9,500 that unquoted things. So there's quite a few different pieces in here, right? And it would be hard to really understand that if all I was tracking was money I already paid out. So as you jump into each one of your different accounts, you can easily see where everything stands and what vendors you paid money to, how much you paid, all that kind of stuff. So the full accounting system really gives you a much better view of everything that's going on within the system. Now from there, I'm going to jump into content management, and we'll come back to procurement in a second, and advanced manager. Those are a part of our advancing system, which is quite powerful. But before we jump into that, the last piece I want to come into here is content management. Content management has a few different purposes. In the corporate space, where we're seeing it most used right now is your ability to come in and collect a bunch of different presenter information or presentations that you have. So all the presenters that you have for a conference or something like that, you can easily grab all their presentations and outline all the content that you're going to need for them. Another great use for this feature is that if you have content going out for digital signage, you can outline all that content here. And that's actually where our surfaces start to play in. And you can use the surfaces with any of the content, but the reason for the two different concepts, both content and surfaces, is the idea that I can define all the content that I'm going to have for the show. I can assign that content out to surfaces, and then if I'm working with a graphic design team or whoever my internal team might be, they know that this content needs to be formatted in all of these different ways to meet the requirements of these surfaces. So as I jump into my surfaces, I can define what my surfaces might be, and then I can come in and add the details for those surfaces around what their raster map is, what the exact specifications are for them, to make sure that we are actually building out all the content that we need in the different formats that they're going to be needed in. The other nice part is if you are dealing with things like scheduling sponsor content across digital signage or other things like that, this platform gives you a great way to be able to come in and easily schedule out all those different content blocks on a nice calendar. So I can see all my different surfaces and then when I'm going to play different content like sponsor loops, welcome videos, things like that. So you get quite a bit of ability to really plan the content for your show. Now, the last piece here that I'll go through is with the content management system, it does hook directly into our file system, and so you can actually use that to build out what are called deliverables. And these deliverables allow you to basically build out the content that you're going to need for the show and then assign that content for somebody to make sure that they're actually going to upload it or to say that they're responsible. And you can also assign due dates with that. Now what happens is when you build out those deliverables, if I come down to the dashboard for, say, one of my speakers who has been assigned deliverables, I can see that they have deliverables that need to be uploaded. So as they log into the system, they're going to see, okay, great, I owe you my pre-marketing content and my keynote presentation, and they know that they have to turn those things in by the given due dates. So it makes it really easy for you to assign out all the content to everybody that you're working with on the show, collect all that data, and easily bring it back into the platform. Now, the last thing that I want to run through is advancing. And advancing is really one of the most powerful features that we have in the platform because of how flexible it is and really how much workload it can take care of for you. Advancing at its core comes from a lot of what happens in the music and festival industry, where you are working with an artist and trying to collect all the details about that artist that you need to make their performance happen. But it actually applies really well to anybody that you're collaborating with on a show. And so we use advanced forms for a number of different reasons. So if I come over to the advanced tab, you'll see that I've built out an advanced form, this one specifically for speaker and presentation details, to collect all the information from any of the presenters who are coming to my corporate event and to make sure that I'm ready for them to present. So I've got things like their name for the program introduction, I've got the name of their presentation, how long is it going to be, will they take a live Q&A, and I can get into some technical details like, do you have embedded videos? What type of microphone are you going to be using? Do you need a conference monitor or a clicker? So I can really get into all types of different data, including things like requests. So what kind of requests do they have for their green room? And so you have this ability to collect a ton of different data. And all of these advanced forms are completely customizable. So we also have the ability to then create all types of different forms. I also have one that I've built for venues. So when I'm going to do my venue walkthrough, I have the ability to fill out this form as I'm doing that walkthrough, or even I could send this directly to them and have them fill out some of this data for me. But it really gives me a great way to collect all the data that I'm going to need for this event for my venue as well. So you can do this for all of your vendors, or really all of your collaborators that you have on the show. And essentially what it is, as you come into your event settings, you have the ability to build out these forms that ask a whole bunch of different questions so that you can collect all the data that you need. You can also build out assets that come in under requests. So if it's things that you actually have to go procure, which we'll talk about in a second, you can have those different assets outlined and people can make requests for certain things. And this is great for requesting things like radios, parking passes, credentials, guest list items, all types of different stuff. And we have tons of different modules that we've built out internally and that we can kind of give you to use as templates as well. So what happens with all this advanced data, right? You've just collected all this data in a form, not super helpful unless we can help you actually take action on that data. And so there are two big things that happen. The first is everything runs through our procurement system. So all that asset-based data, things like hospitality items, furniture, whatever it is that you might be collecting, all that is going to run through a procurement system. And so in procurement, you basically go through the process of taking all your requests, building out shopping lists of the things that you actually need, and that's what this translation process is all about, taking those requests, building those shopping lists, breaking stuff down into what actually needs ordered, then taking those shopping lists and getting them out on your orders. And what the beauty of this system is that because we have your shopping list, we have all the things that you need, we're able to tell you what still needs orders, what's actually already on orders, and help you track and make sure that you don't have discrepancies in quantity as you're working across multiple different vendors, all that kind of stuff. So we can track in the system to a pretty high degree, making sure that you've actually covered all the different stuff that you needed to make sure you get for the event. And as you drop these things onto orders, we actually give you a real easy way to export those directly as RFQs. So now you've got a request for quote that you can send directly to your furniture vendor, to your catering vendor, whoever it is that you might be working with, and there's no need for you to rebuild it as an email or reformat everything. You've got it right here in a PDF. You can shoot straight out to your vendors and you're good to go. Now, the other place that all this information goes is into our advanced management system. And Advanced Manager is really about helping you roll up, based on the categories that you've defined, all of the data that you collected. So if you have your AV team, they can easily see, okay, here's all the AV details for the different presentations that are going on inside the different spaces. So they could easily come in and say, cool, who's got videos, what microphones do they need, where do I need to have confidence monitors or different clickers, things like that. So all the details that you define are easily rolled up here. Now, what's nice is that we also give you a lot of ways to also export this data. So if I were to come to my main stage ballroom, for example, I could actually download a daysheet export and easily see the schedule for the room, contacts for everybody who's presenting or otherwise interacting in that room, as well as all their advanced information. So I have a great packet that I can hand directly to a stage manager or other people that might be working in that space, like my audio team, my lighting team, things like that. And they know all the different notes, and exactly what they're going to need to make sure that they provide for those speakers and everybody who's going to be coming into the space. So really easy way to take all that data, easily export it right back out, get those things out to your team. And so where you might invite your team directly into the platform during pre-planning process, once you guys are on site, you also have those day sheets, which are nice, easy, and handy and ready to go. Now, I just showed you all types of things inside the platform, so if you're feeling a little bit confused, if you want to dive deeper into stuff, we definitely suggest that you reach out to the team here at BackOps. Everything I just showed you is that 60,000 foot view, so I'm sure there's lots of questions. There's tons of places where we could dive deeper into detail, but we wanted to make sure that we kept this a little bit more of a high-level consumable demo. So hopefully you were able to see and start to understand the realm of possibility that you can get out of this platform and all the amazing things that you're able to do all under one umbrella. But we look forward to hearing from you guys, and if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to our team.